Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you my thoughts on the Gekko buff. The Gekko buff seems like some wishy-washy discussion as per usual, right? For those of you that don't know, you now have 5 extra seconds to pick up any of the globules from 15 up to 20 seconds, and you can pick up Mosh over and over again, like the rest of them. Like most of them. The rest you only get one other time, right? But that's kind of the big part of this discussion, where it's just like you have Mosh. You can use Mosh again and again, and Mosh opens up a lot of doors. I have a lot of things here. Let's talk about it. So, as we know, Mosh goes into things like garden, so that you only have to worry about over here. And now we have region names, right? Um, but worry outside of teleporter. So that's the Icarus update. You can see that. But still per usual. However, one of the things is that you would have an agent like Yoru or Chamber here. All right. Let's actually put Chamber here just for the sake of this being a more Chamber angle, and then go on from there, right? But you have something like less clickbaited, I guess, not clickbait, but importance. More people care about Yoru right now than Chamber. Now with Mosh, you can't have the problem of Yoru. This is kind of a soft Yoru counter in the fact of, all right, they have to throw this one here, right? Like you have to leave. You can't stand here. In the past, if you have something like a Sky or a Fade, uh, dogs, rolls, initiator, right? To get the Yoru off, if somebody, fuck it, let's put chamber here, is holding here, they'll just shoot it for the Yoru, right? They'll just shoot it. And that way the Yoru can still stay there until, doesn't need to. They'll shoot the dog, get no information, and then you still have to hard check it. However, with Gekko Molly, you don't, because they cannot stand there. And you only have to worry about one spot. And then you get to do it again and again, same way these motherfuckers can teleport again and again. You have Yoru here. Somebody like Brim, usually, is like here. Oops, should have made that an enemy, right? Enemy. There we go. Is there to shoot the wingman, dizzy, whatever that you are trying to throw. And Yoru gets to still sit there. Can't do that now. Because I get to take this control easily. Again and again. Still throw Dizzy Wingman, and now I know that, hey, if you were trying to do it, there's two on this site. Or there were at least two, right? Gekko buff comes in pretty massive in that front. I have over here a couple of agent pairings because we've seen most of these on Corrode. So let's go over to Corrode for a second. Take that down. Weird that cards got the overlap. But funny, we've seen all of these on Corrode. We've seen Sage Veto with 100 Thieves. We've seen Sage. I can't remember if they also did the Veto. I think so, right? With Global Esports after. We've seen Fnatic do Vice and KO. So two things of wall plus stop utility backslash execute, right? Now, not to say that this follows the same guidelines, because Gekko doesn't particularly stop utility. Does make you waste it though, but let's talk about another wall agent, Deadlock. Deadlock has this funky little thing that is a tether. And what do we know? Tether nade combos. And with both of these being repeatable, now it would be insanely hard to convince any team or group of people to play both Deadlock and Gekko. But I'm just saying, if it were to happen, you have a repeatable tether nade throughout the round. That's just cool to say. And having a wall, you have somebody that can do a funky little combo here of Armageddon wall situation. So, will we see a Tejo Deadlock Gekko comp? I highly doubt it, but just saying, that's there. But that does bring me to the next thing I want to talk about here, why I have these in green. Now, we've seen Gekko. We actually have seen Gekko corrode from DRG. I'm pretty sure it was Solo Gekko, if I remember correctly, but we've seen Solo Gekko tried. Didn't catch on. I don't think that this changes Gekko to solo potential, even though now you can get information at a longer range, reliably and semi consistently. Uh, you could throw this here, and that way your team can scale up and then get this back, and then you just have to worry about clearing kind of here, right, instead of somebody holding right here. You could do that now. And hell, maybe even a kind of a lineup to do a waylay situation, a waylay saturate Gecko Molly combo. Maybe that's in the cards, but while we have the duelist here, let's actually bring waylay down and another one. We'll talk about those too. But coming to the staying on the initiators for a second here, there's one that you haven't really seen paired with them, and that's Tejo. Well, actually, there's a couple you haven't seen paired with Gekko, but there's one that's semi-realistic now because we've seen solo Tejo try to come into play because you have a drone with information and then you just go off of that. Now, let's take this to something like Pearl, where I saw this issue with one of the Pacific teams. I think it was Genji. That was driving me up a wall. They're using their guided salvos to clear out spaces that a Yoru might hold, right? Now, you don't do that. Now you have Gekko, and you can save your post plant shit. As we know, Tejo Astra post plant is kind of scary. Save your post plant shit because you've already thrown Moss to hard check where you would have guided Salvo. Uh, but on that same note, you now have given your enemy a problem to solve. They either have to reveal themselves by shooting Wingman before he can plant, or let Wingman plant, and now you have to deal with Mosh, guided salvos, and Astra Suck. And I bring the stun into question because, yeah, uh, we've seen Breach plus repeatable damaging utility is interesting, but I don't think you just invest Breach to always stun Molly something. But now, if you do go the Tejo Gekko route, you have stun Molly here, you have stun salvo backslash Armageddon situation available to you as well. So I think this opens the door to a very scary situation of Tejo, Mosh, Tejo guided salvos backslash stun, Mosh from Gekko, and Astra Suck. Will we see this combination of things? Doubt it, but maybe. Because you could also be coming down to the duelist, and like I was saying here, that could be a saturate. That could be a we're going in, I'm going in, stun until one of those situations, right? And then a mosh, and then so on and so forth. This could, instead of investing guided salvos into these places, right? Go out there, swing it, throw it there. Now, Waylay has kind of a solo buddy and then initiator instead of double duelist that can very easily, all right, I saturate it there, there's somebody there, molly them, and we get to have a molly for the post plant instead of having to invest a guided salvo that I really want. Coming to Raze, you have Raze, who, if you want to double down on something like a split, where we've seen, again, some of these wall agents come into play, and why I want to talk about Viper here too. Viper has nowhere to play in mid now, but if you want to boombot nade double down the same way you have Wingman and sorry, I forgot Wingman over here. Wingman Mosh, you can do that for a lot of control on the map. But coming to the situation of now Viper can't play mid, Mosh here, get that back, can't play there, and can't be out here, even though you have your fuck ass smoke here. So it's just to say, Gekko answers a lot of things by himself now, whether it be people that you have to get out of the spot and they cannot be, getting a fake out hold from somebody else or from a stubborn Viper. This Gekko buff opens a lot of doors. So yeah, I think it's pretty neat, and teams should really consider trying to implement Gekko into their comps. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.